All right. You're listening to WUWU Community Radio Morning Show. What's up with you? We heard from Jeff Lausma this morning in our first hour, and now we're in studio with our second guest for the morning, Sarah Louisana. She is a local gal, a Benzie babe, as I like to put it, and she is in to our station for the first time this morning. And joining us to tell her more about her work and her life and her journey and what she brings to our beautiful community. Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
All right, let's make sure that we can just enjoy this very interesting and different conversation. I like to bring all kinds of perspectives to our station, so keep an open mind here. We're going to hear from Sarah about her journey. And Sarah, what is it that you offer the community currently in our good old Benzie County?
I just want to make sure that my audio is working.
All right, try it now.
I don't necessarily hear myself in my earphones.
I don't either. Let's try you on the other mic. All right, technical difficulties as we...
No.
That's much
this
better.
One works. This
there
one works.
we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled that this is happening in Benzie County. What a surprise. I found out that Sarah had a radio show not that long ago and that this community radio station was happening, and I was like, get out. This is a really cool resource. So I'm honored to be here. And yeah, as Sarah said, I'm a Benzie native, and I left for a really long time, and then I just before COVID came back, and then I the lockdowns happened and kind of got stuck, and as it turns out, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yay!
Because this is where my body knows how to be me the best, and I had spent the 5 years prior to that being pretty geographically dislocated, and that was really tough. And so being back in Benzie County on this land with this lake and my homeland, just it's really brought a lot of roots and grounding to my work. And then in addition to that, I kind of been bopping around Benzie County in Traverse for the last 4 years, and then in the fall last year I bought a house in Benzie County, so I'm like really in Benzie County now. It's really exciting, yeah, quite a journey from being a pretty heavy nomad to now looking forward to potentially homesteading here, and glad I got that traveling bug out of my system and that I can be here and really feed into the community. So this opportunity to be on the radio and say hello to all of you again just feels like good timing.
Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your new home ownership. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yay! We love that you're here.
Sarah was just telling me about some resources for how to manage the land in an intelligent way, and looking forward to talking to my community about how that works too. So
yeah.
But my work, so I support women in their pelvic health journeys, and I do a lot of work on the sort of trauma healing side of things, and I employ lots of different skill sets, including hands-on body work, menstrual cycle analysis, food, nutrition, movement, and psychospiritual healing. And I've had an office in Traverse City since 2022, and I'm going to start working in opening office hours in Beulah with my friend Amy Wilcox, who's opening a new wellness center called Rise Wellness in downtown Beulah, starting in March.
Ooh,
what?
Teaser.
So, yep, teaser, exactly. So look for that. And I really like supporting women and their daughters around fertile cycle reclamation and understanding how to be in their bodies in a way that's empowering. And, as our world gets more toxic, women's bodies are kind of the canary in the coal mine, and we are screaming. Our bodies are screaming. Women's bodies are screaming. The rates of reproductive malaise and fertility issues are on the rise, and it can be really scary. And there's really not a lot of integrative and holistic support out there. If you go to your gynecologist, they sort of have a couple of different hammers that they whack with, pharmaceutical drugs and surgery, and that's kind of it. There's not, I mean, this is not news to anybody here probably, but there's not a lot of understanding about preventative care in our current healthcare system, although hopefully my man RFK gets in and that will change. But for now, this is kind of where things are at. And so I'm very passionate to bring practices that help women come into their bodies and understand what's going on from within, and start to learn their sort of language, their own body language.
Yeah. So like a fluency of sorts of what is my body saying to me, which I feel like comes up a lot on this show, is like learning to get to know that language. So, for listeners who might have a more conventional understanding of women's bodies, I know that I was raised in sort of with the attitude of like, I definitely got the your menstrual cycle is the curse, and that, here's a tampon and here's how you use it and that's it, and like deal with it. Don't talk about it. It's sort of a shame game. And I think that's, outside of the healing community, that's like so common. So a lot of the listeners might be coming from that perspective. They might be feeling even uncomfortable hearing someone talk about it, in public. And even though it's something you do all the time, right? As a health practitioner, it's like, hey, women, we've got bodies. Your daughters have bodies. They are doing this. So here we are. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to learn. And so what would you say to somebody who's still in that place, a woman who is still in that place of like, that's all I was ever told. How do I begin my journey out of that?
Yeah. Okay. So in between the lines, I'm reading that she's looking outside of the traditional paradigm for some reason. And most often that happens when there's a little bit of a fire. Something is up. Something's not right. She's sensing something's not right. So maybe she's gotten abnormal cells on her cervix diagnosed, or maybe she's been having trouble getting pregnant, or maybe she's been diagnosed with a fibroid or polycystic ovarian syndrome or something. Perhaps it's not even directly related to the reproductive system, metabolic issues, hormone issues. So usually there's something that peaks. And women come to me often after they've been sort of rinsed and washed in the allopathic system a couple of times, been to different professionals, and found dead ends, or found that people were so hyper specialized that they couldn't see the bigger picture. So if that's been happening for you, it can feel, so that can be like a devastating place, because our parents' generation grew up believing that doctors were God, essentially, and that was instilled in us. And we didn't, there wasn't as much, but there probably was big pharma and big medicine and these big institutions. So people kind of did trust their primary care providers more. I think that the culture has shifted for the worst. So there's a point where women wake up and realize, like, oh, this isn't the same paradigm that it was when I was a kid, or that when my mom was young, and I don't really trust the advice I'm getting, even if, and this is often the case, their husbands are like, just trust the doctor, just listen to what they say, do what they say to do. And women are starting to feel what seems like an irrational rebelliousness inside of themselves that's coming from their body. And I don't know what's going on in this bigger consciousness conversation that's helping women listen to that, but it's definitely becoming louder. And I think it's becoming louder because we're sicker than we ever have been. Even if you eat really well and are doing your best, we're just inundated. So toxicity is causing lots of problems, and the things that used to work with allopathic medicine aren't necessarily working anymore. So when a woman is at that point and she comes to me, it's usually like a huge relief to know that there are other things to consider, and things that are actually really simple and really resonant with what they already have kind of intuitively felt inside of themselves. I'm not doing anything that's that complicated. It's really inherently obvious once you just kind of take a veil off and be like, oh, and you understand a little bit more about your body. It's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Going through the rigmarole of taking 1,000 different drugs to get your body ready to get on hormonal birth control in order to get pregnant. Like some of these fertility pathways are just really, they don't make sense, and women's bodies are like, I don't know about that.
Is that really the best way?
So there's something that's happening there that's really cool. And I guess if nothing's really happening for you, but you might be seeing something happening for your daughter, that's a real special place in my heart for supporting young women who might be, it's really tough to be a teenager going through puberty. It was really hard for me. It was really hard for all of my peers. It's hard. I remember, I can't swear.
Yes.
I'm going to try really hard not to swear, you guys. It's a really tough time. And now these girls and boys have social media, which is showing them a reflection of just a virtual reality that's absolutely false.
Yeah.
And it's messing with delicate synapses in their brains and affecting hormones, and that makes things even more confusing and difficult. And so I just really love being a resource for families in those moments when there's so much confusion and so much happening in the culture that's sort of, I think, a little bit predatory on that confusion.
Providing another resource that's actually in favor of the natural functions and systems of the body, and getting that from a trusted source. So there's something that you've mentioned a couple times, which is toxicity in our environments. I don't think that's news to people listening, that even in the past 50 to 100 years, our living environments are the earth, the air, the soil, the food, our homes, the building materials are affecting our health, in that they have different chemical compounds in them that are getting into our bodies. And so can you help us understand that canary in the coal mine idea? Why is it that women's bodies are a place where those things can be, relevant?
Great question. So most people don't know this. It's really cool to be in a female body because of the monthly detox that we get, which is our menstrual bleed. As Sarah was mentioning, I grew up this way, and I think most women do too. That it's a curse, and it's something to dread, and in fact, it's of many beautiful things I could say about the gift of menstruation. It is an opportunity to cleanse, and so we're finding microplastics, forever chemicals, phthalates in menstrual blood, and so. When so before I talk about how cool it is to be able to cleanse that every month and to have the opportunity to do a little detox and to get it out of our systems, it's kind of like WTF. That's in the uterus.
Like what? The heck?
That means that the liver is overloaded. And when the liver gets overloaded,
Bad news.
Then toxicity is cycling and circulating through the bloodstream.
Right, because the liver is like a filter for the body, right? It's like the blood gets sent to the liver to get filtered. Like the stuff from our digestive system also potentially gets like filtered through the liver. I'm just kind of making this up. It's a filter
The
concept.
liver is like the garbage can.
Okay.
And the kidneys are like the recycling bin.
Oh, interesting.
So
how does the liver get the garbage out?
The liver the liver's process is to clear the lymph and the blood. So I'm not a biologist. I don't know I'm not going to speak about this as nuanced as somebody who's got a PhD in biology, but the blood filters through the liver, and then the liver collects toxicity and then tries to get rid of it. But at this point, we're seeing, so there's a liver disease called fatty liver disease, and this used to be like 20 years ago only found in like people who abused alcohol, for example, or took a lot of hard drugs or were on pharmaceuticals for a long time. And now the statistics are pretty shocking that women over 40, there's something like 70% of women over 40 have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's not because they're abusing their livers. That's just because of toxicity in the environment that they've been consuming. So it's wreaking havoc on our delicate chemical communication systems, or our endocrine system, or aka our hormones. And so this is a big conversation for me with my clients, regardless of their age, because our hormone fluctuations are constantly giving us feedback as to like how our metabolism is going, and how well we're assimilating the food that we're eating, and whether there's toxicity overloaded in the body. And so that sort of answers your question, I think.
Yes, it does.
I could go on and on.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's so useful. Just such good, useful, basic information that seems important for everyone to know about.
And I think before I move on, I want to, one really important thing that you can do is to eliminate the real bad hormone mimicking. So there are xenoestrogens, these certain brand of chemicals in a lot of our fragrance products, beauty products, like Glade plugins.
Yeah, air
Febreze,
fresheners. Yeah.
Almost, I mean, this is not news. The cosmetics industry has gotten the memo, and some of them are cleaning it up. But most of the cosmetic products that people put on their bodies, in deodorant, lotion, face products, have xenoestrogens, and your skin is a digestive organ. You're putting it directly into your body, and it is. It's like a lurking problem that if you're having hormone issues and you go to your primary care provider, they're not going to be like, are you poisoning yourself
perfume?
With, yeah, I mean, as soon as a woman walks into my office with perfume, it's the first thing I'm telling her, you know? So there's that piece of the conversation around toxicity in the environment. And then there's the other piece of the conversation around the toxicity of hormonal birth control that we're literally it's being shoved down our throats from puberty onwards. And there's an hour and a half long documentary that I could give on why I'm not a fan, but I'll refer you to the actual documentary called The Business of Birth Control, and this was done by Ricky Lake and Abby Epstein, and it's an incredible documentary. If you don't know, if you have got a daughter who's becoming sexually active and you think that the only fear you should have right now is her getting pregnant, think again, because hormonal birth control at a young age like that is essentially endocrine disruption and puberty blocking. It tricks the body to think that it's pregnant. And when the body thinks that it's pregnant, pretty much the whole sex hormone cascade goes dormant. And that's absolutely detrimental to her lifelong health.
Yeah, probably her brain development,
That's
everything.
right.
Everything's connected, right? Hormones are so important. I know for myself, I was given hormonal birth control as a way to help with acne, as a teenager, right?
Right.
14, 13, and that's like the solution. So it's not just being used for like birth control, but so many other things.
That's right.
So we got to look out for that prescription and ask questions. I think is something I hear
Yeah.
you saying is just start to get curious about what is this and what is it really good for and what is it actually not good for and what are my other options to achieve my actual goals. And it sounds like what you offer to your clients is that you provide an non-medical, is that
Yeah.
true? Non-medical resource for these types of, coming into balance in the body, especially in the female body. And so you can be, I'm losing my train of thought. There's so many things. But hormones, super important. Something that might be related to that as well is like weight. Like people might be saying weight as like a symptom of hormones. Is that?
Yeah,
Do you
totally.
work with that with your clients?
Oh yeah. Insulin is a hormone, and insulin has a lot to do as women age. I see a lot of women who are coming into perimenopause, and I kind of want to do air quotes around that. Perimenopause conversations is all the rage. There's so many memes out there that have women being like, I don't know, it's the next thing to complain about. Just laying on the couch. Oh, me and my perimenopause. And our perimenopause is like a blanket term for a 10-year period, essentially, as women's bodies become less and less fertile, and eventually they stop menstruating and stop ovulating. But that gray area, that grace period, isn't just this like diagnosis. It's actually a varied experience for lots of different women, and it has everything to do with how well you're taking care of your hormonal health and how well you're eating and whether you're building strength and muscle. Actually, building muscle is one of the biggest things that I recommend for women in when there's a reproductive and hormonal fluctuation times. So, and that's because muscle tissue actually helps regulate hormones and gives the body a place to put things. Like when we have too much estrogen in the system, it can be stored in the muscles for a minute before it has to go through the liver and be cleared out of the body. Mm-hmm. But if a woman's not nourished well and she's in starvation because she's trying to do intermittent fasting and she thinks that she needs to lose weight, and she's also working out too hard, and she has or doing a lot of yoga or whatever, and doesn't have a lot of muscle mass, that could be like, quote, she's doing all the right things, eating lots of green smoothies, but her hormones and her metabolism could be like completely screwy, and she could be kind of robbing herself of what's called Jing in traditional Chinese medicine, which is like our reproductive life force. It's like the female yin version of qi. And so when we don't manage our Jing well, we don't manage our hormonal health and our reproductive health well, we pay for it in perimenopause. And so it's kind of like, I'm glad that there's like a visibility campaign about it. But it's also like, that's not essentially what it is. Right. It's toxicity. You're probably dealing with an overloaded liver and uterus with toxicity in your system, and you probably don't know like how to eat and balance your insulin levels that well, and you're probably not exercising for your body type in a way that's giving you regenerative energy instead of just depletion. So anyways, that's my little soapbox about perimenopause. What was the question you asked me that led me there?
There wasn't, it was coming from a little side note myself, but I wonder also, we hear a lot about wearable technology.
Weight.
Yes.
That was what you were asking for. Yeah, I do want to talk about that, but I want to come back to
weight.
The weight piece. So when we don't have, that's such a big conversation. This gets into the psycho-spiritual piece. Like if we've got unresolved childhood trauma and we've been needing to protect ourselves, on some subconscious level, and
Emotionally.
emotionally, not being met by partners, and that just kind of perpetuates. It's often women gain weight to get a buffer. So there's a piece of that around the psychospiritual healing piece of trauma healing to release the weight. That there's also the toxicity part, like that's one thing that the body does, like the liver, when it becomes overloaded with toxicity, it literally gets builds fat around the outside of it, and that's one way. But the organs can themselves get fatty, but the body gets fatty in order to store toxicity as well. And then the metabolic health piece, like if we're not watching how our insulin and glucose conversation inside of our body is going, that can cause like roller coasters of spikes and peaks, and then the body it has a really difficult time losing weight when that hellscape is going on inside of our cells. And you were gonna go to wearables. Yeah. So I'm at first I saw these CGMs, these continuous glucose monitors on people's arms, and my first reaction was like, that's some cyborg stuff.
Yeah, right.
They're training us to be wearing
implants.
I'm not, no way. And then I read Casey Means' book, Good Energy, and it really blew my mind about this metabolism piece being kind of the missing link for what I think I can offer for my clients, but I think most women are not understanding about their body, and how really like metabolic health is essentially talking about how the cells convert the food that you eat into energy that you make, and if they're not able to do that, we've got chronic fatigue. We're constantly sick. There's the body's having a really difficult time getting enough resources to even have a healthy cycle and menstruate well, let alone get pregnant and go through the marathon of growing a being inside of our bodies. Like there's a lot that the female body is up to every month that requires a lot more diligence around health than the male body. There's a lot of differences between the male and female body, but that's definitely one of them. And menstruation is a big nutritional process. Demanding, yeah. So after I read Casey Means' book, I was like, feeling like curious. And then it took me another couple months until I got caved into some Black Friday deal and was like, all right, let's do it. I'm going to get my labs done and do a blood test and figure out what my body does when I eat. And I have a CGM on right now, and it's been 10 days that I've had it. It's connected to an app on my phone, and I can watch what happens in real time, which is so wild.
So it's like a patch that has a little like sensor in it. Does it go in through the skin?
Yep, it's got a tiny little needle.
And so then that transmits data into this app, and it tells you about your insulin levels and probably other levels.
Yeah, well,
in real time-ish.
Yeah, it's telling me how my body's responding to glucose in the body. And when I did my labs, they have you go get your blood drawn and get these 5 specific markers for metabolic health on like a fast. So you get a kind of a big baseline blueprint for what your body's up to. And then you track different measured things throughout the day, and it's got, I'm a real foot dragger on technology, and this has been a big learning curve, because not only is there a device kind of Bluetooth connected to my phone,
radiation.
We took the smart meter off of our house. Like nice. We're like really intentional about about radiation from Wi-Fi and all of that. And so it's kind of a stretch for me to do this. It's only for a month. So after this, I don't think it's not a lifetime thing.
Learning process.
I'm learning. Yeah. I'm doing some research. But anyways, there's also AI, AI meal breakdown that's going on, and like getting all the macro and macronutrients out of what I input when I tell it what I eat. Type in what I'm eating every day, and it kind of analyzes things, and it's tracking all of my micronutrients and my protein levels and blah blah blah. So I'm learning about how I don't have a major like problem. So I think it would probably be really enlightening if I did, as to what my metabolism is doing to contribute to that. But I'm learning a lot just because.
Right. It'll help you be a better practitioner too.
That's
right?
the point.
Yeah. And so we could guide someone else through this process.
Yeah.
And what that continuous glucose monitor is showing you is how your body's responding to what you're eating, and then you can take that information and learn about what to eat, what not to eat.
Yeah, what to eat,
it?
what not to eat. And also, like, the biggest takeaway that I've gotten is that when I eat, even if I'm not eating sugar or even fruit, I'm like, eat a meal of mostly protein and fiber and fat, my glucose goes up and spikes after every meal. And I might be learning something about my body in that way. That might not be the case for everybody, but I'm noticing that if I exercise a little bit within a half an hour after I eat, that spike doesn't happen.
Oh, how interesting. I think the German way of walking after a meal
absolutely
has something
a simple walk.
There.
Sometimes it's like, oh gosh, it's too dark out. I don't want to go for a
and
walk.
I'm full because I overate.
Yeah. So I just do some air squats and burpees or whatever, and like just getting my heart rate up and doing like 5 to 10 minutes worth of gentle exercise. I don't get that spike. And so what my body's been doing is, I also did an experiment where I ate 2 oranges, these delicious oranges that I got from Sarah. I ate 2 of them and didn't exercise afterwards, and I watched what happens. And my glucose spiked like 60 points and then troughed. Terrible. And then I had a headache for the rest of the day. And I've had these headaches my whole life, and I never could figure it out. I thought it had something to do with pelvic tension, and I was like, really, I've been trying to figure it out. It's because of my glucose troughing.
Okay. So there's some like, you can like know that that's happening. You can learn about yourself, and then you can like shift your habits ever so slightly to be less in this like wacky up and down, and it'll bring energy back into your life. It sounds like it.
Oh yeah. When you're not doing that spike and trough 3 times a day, it's been amazing how much clarity and focus I've had. I mean, I feel like I do a pretty good job already. But just this little tweak has made me feel, that much more resilient and bright.
So amazing. We could talk about these things forever. I think we'll have to have you back on and talk about so many things. So what I want to also touch on your career. Maybe you could give us a quick overview of like, where did you come from? We only have about 10 minutes left, but how did you come into this work? And I would love to hear more about your writing as well.
Okay.
When I was a wee one.
Well, I tell this story kind of publicly on my website too, so I don't feel that exposed. But I had, I came from my own healing journey. That's what's really got me motivated to help other women is breaking through some really big, devastating things as a child. My parents were divorced when I was 2, and I had 2 different experiences of childhood sexual trauma and at different points of my life. And when that happens with a young person, there's like a I can't escape feeling, and that really affected me. And my brain did a really cool thing to sort of help me, and it forgot everything.
Compartmentalize.
It did a beautiful thing and just put it away in my body so that I didn't have to walk around feeling terrified. And that was how my body handled that. Not everybody's body does that, but when I was 25 years old living out in Seattle, I started practicing yoga, and that practice was stretching and breaking open some of these tight held places, specifically in my pelvis. And I started having memories come back, and I started having kind of, intense cathartic breakdowns in public practice and with my boyfriend at the time having sex. And so I was like, well, there's something kind of weird happening and I need to figure this out. And I started to go to see a therapist, and through the process of doing EMDR, and like she would kind of like, we kind of co-created this experience where I would do these yoga postures in her office with the EMDR gear on. EMDR is a rapid eye movement kind of therapy that helps sort of get into different parts of your brain. And so she helped me sort of dislodge a lot of memories out of my body and move through them and move through the emotional piece of it. And that just like sent me on a complete, I don't know, like every cell of my body was like, okay, we're going in this direction now. And I had this crazy drive and determination to heal myself, and then realized that was what I was here to do, to help other women. And so I've just spent the last 20 years almost. I really want to swear because there's a really great effing around and finding out.
Yeah, right. And mess around.
I messed around and found out with a lot of different trainings and a lot of different professional experiences over the course of this time, and sought out teachers who were teaching different elements of how to be embodied and feel safe, essentially, and to thrive and to get over not just my own experience of trauma, but my mother's and her mother's, and the way that generational stuff sits inside of our bodies, and how to handle the energetics of that, and to come out the other end feeling fertile and brave and ready to connect and be open and intimate with people and partners, and
and give your wisdom on in your own practice.
Yeah, and move it forward.
Which is a beautiful. Now it's your full-time gig.
Yeah,
and you're serving the greater Grand Traverse area. You have an office in Traverse City. Is that right?
Yep.
That you practice out of?
Yep. And soon Beulah.
And soon also in Beulah. Amazing. We're becoming the healing mecca. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to hear about that. We'll have you and maybe Amy as well back on when that opens up. Yeah. And tell us really quickly about your writing and where people can learn more about that.
In 2020, I had a real smackdown, just like most of us. And I went through a divorce, and I had a real kind of dark night of the soul moment where I was trying to figure out that was when I was really geographically dislocated and was with a person who wasn't very good to me. And when I finally left, it took a long time, but I finally left, I just kind of like asked God, like, help. What am I supposed to do? And I got a dream, a very, very vivid dream came to me. And in the dream, I was running with wolves, and the wolves were sort of with me and in me, and they delivered me to a place where I was supposed to dance something to life. And I was in the woods, and there was a bonfire, and the sparks of the bonfire rose up into the sky and then fell in different parts of the forest where there were other bonfires with other women dancing. And so I was like, wow, man, this is a really powerful dream. And I worked that dream a lot in ceremony and dream work mentorships, and came to realize that not only did I need to keep doing the work that I was doing, but I needed to do it in person more, and that I needed to write. And so my writing, I really like through that dream, through that process of writing and like tracking that experience of this. I don't know where that came from, but it was a gift, and it was not just for me. I was clear about that I promised myself I would take myself serious as a writer, and I'd always been interested in writing and always loved to write and wrote newsletters and cards and stuff. But then I got invited to do a co-authorship project in a book called The Sacred Feminine, and it was a really special experience getting to write a book together with a bunch of other women about the experience similar to what I'd had. And that book you can find on my website. And then if you want to read more, kind of more on a regular basis, I have a Substack. And the Substack is substack.com/wolfmother. And that was the sort of soul name that came to me through that dream. And I write about radical pelvic health, womb wisdom, fertile cycle reclamation, sacred feminine awakening, the sort of themes of which I've been talking today. And, I weave in activism and passion and personal stories and client testimonials and stories of healing and inspiration, and also a lot of, I think, vital education based on what I know. So
from your own experiences, which are profound,
empirical.
So if we've gone over so many different issues that folks might be having in relationship to women's health. So let's just hear from you one more time. If listeners are experiencing something, what would be good reasons to come and seek out your services? If what kinds of things might they be experiencing that would be suitable to seek out your services for?
If there's any kind of reproductive issue that does not seem to be getting solved, or if perhaps the solutions you've been given have felt a little extreme. Hysterectomy is the second most common surgery for women in America. That's the removal of a vital organ, and it seems like, okay, no big deal. It's so common, but it's a vital organ for the entire life of a woman. It does so much after childbearing years are over for our bodies, and huge repercussions for getting that organ out that they don't tell you about. So anyways, if you've had that suggested to you, please come talk to me before you go do that very extreme thing. If you've been to the gynecologist for any reason, and they've perhaps, if you've got diagnosed with HPV and they're wanting to do colposcopies or LEAP processes and take parts of your cervix away, there are holistic ways to solve and heal and to clear yourself of HPV without having to cut out part of your body and go through those painful procedures. If you're wanting to not get pregnant and you want to learn how to do that without chemically castrating yourself, essentially with hormonal birth control, come talk to me. If you want to get pregnant and you're not able to, and something's not right, and maybe air quotes unexplained infertility has been mentioned, gosh, there's so much we can work with. And if you're really just wanting to feel your intuitive animal body speak to you louder and help guide you, your womb space is like the place to connect to, and that just might be enough of a reason. And then finally, if you've got a young daughter who's maybe struggling with body dysmorphia, or is maybe just has anxiety, or is wanting to rebel and become a vegetarian,
or maybe somebody, just also if mothers or aunts or grandparents are looking for guidance in the onset of menstruation, those years, the pubescent years of girls, like in terms of rites of passage,
right?
If they're looking for some help in
how to have that talk, how to be prepared for that in advance. I work with mothers, and I also have in the past run maidens in menstruation circles for young girls to come be with cool Aunt Sarah to learn about this stuff, because sometimes it's like really difficult to hear things from your mom.
Yeah. Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being in with us today. It's been such an enlightening hour imagine
That went
what
fast.
else we have to learn from you. We're so excited that you're here.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
And you can hear more from Sarah Louisenaugh from her various online presences. She is on Substack.com, which is a place that people can publish their writings. Her handle is Wolf Mother. You can find her there on Substack. Her
my Instagram is at The Living Pelvis. The Living Pelvis is the name of my business.
and that's also her website for her healing work in general. So you can see more information about the services that she offers there. And she is working out of Traverse City and soon to be working out of Beulah. That website is thelivingpelvis.com. And, so much interesting stuff. So glad you made it in with us this morning, and we look forward to having you on again.
Thanks so much. Look forward to it too.
Yay. So it is now 10:56. We are live on WUWU Community Radio. Go to a quick song break here, and then we'll be getting off the air here. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
I love everything.
Time is 10:59 a.m. You are listening to WUWU LP FM 100.1 Frankfurt, Alberta. Thanks so much for tuning in to this morning's What's Up With You morning program. Remember, if you are interested in getting involved with community radio, there are endless opportunities here at WUWU Community Radio.